What's up, guys? Should have Kyle Russell joining us today from Scotland. Um, Apologize for that in the background. He's a competition director for the WOD on the Loch, which is the competition that I'll be at this weekend in Loch Lomond, Scotland, just outside of Glasgow. As he joins, we'll jump in with him, bring him in, and give him a chance to talk to us about everything that's related to his competition. I have had a pretty early day. Woke up in Norway last night there, staying at my buddy Roger's place, and left around 5 this morning local time. Had a little 2 short flights, one through Stavanger, beautiful coastal town in Norway. I kind of want to learn more about it actually. Morning, 2 o'clock here, somewhere between 5 and 8 a.m. over there, I would say, in the States. Yeah, it's early in the West Coast especially, but this was the time that Kyle could give me this week. So we'll bring him on and preview the weekend coming up. Anyway, then took a little flight over to Aberdeen. So I'm in Aberdeen. I'm actually going to CrossFit Aberdeen later this evening to meet up with Rob Lawson. I'm going to take a class there. I've heard a lot of good things about CrossFit Aberdeen, and I'm excited to just experience the class. Rob is a integral part of some CrossFit competitions that you guys probably are aware of, and has been around the space of CrossFit for a long time and knows a lot of people. Release the workouts before Kyle comes on. He would not like that. But I do have them. They're going to be cool. He's takes a lot of pride in his programming. I know I've known that for years about him. So I'm looking forward to you guys finding out about him and seeing how they play out in the environment that he has here. It's a pretty unique competition, outdoor competition. Some elements that are different than you find a lot of other places. Anyway, yeah, I'll go to CrossFit Aberdeen tonight. Get to see that box over there. I have some friends who have trained there before and have spoken extremely highly of it. Spend the week in Scotland here. I think I'll only spend one day in Aberdeen. I'll drive down to Glasgow tomorrow. Going to meet up with the guys from CrossFit Glasgow, Gavin and Ian. I know them pretty well over the years, working with them, dating back to the first Strength and Depth. That's where I first met them. They're often involved in the competition side of things with many of the events in the UK, including the UK Championships that happened 2 weeks ago. Fit Fest that has just now been kind of releasing some information. So it'll be really fun to work out at their gym as well. I've heard a lot of good. They have an incredible community from what I've heard. Probably grab a drink with them and a steak is what I was promised. So hoping for that tomorrow night. And then I think I'm going to see Jen Weir and Fraser Clark up at Blueprint on Wednesday. At least that's kind of the tentative plan for the week leading into the weekend. A little bit, leaving some room for flexibility on Thursday. I might drive over to Edinburgh. Historic there. The castle is obviously super famous, but I heard it's a capital and nice place to visit. While we're waiting for Kyle, let me see if I can pull something up. There was a competition that happened this past weekend in the States that I think is probably worth at least giving some acknowledgement to, which was the Monster Games. I've never had a chance to go to the Monster Games. I know several people that have. And they do qualifiers only for their competition. So some of the competitions in the summer have the opportunity for athletes who miss out on progressing through the game season as much as they would like to register and join. Monster Games is not one of those. You got to do the qualifiers to get in. We do have some past semifinals athletes there, and CJ Gerald more or less running away with it. He wasn't in the lead after the first day, but he ends up winning by 50 or 60 points here. 8th place, Michael Phelps, the swimming workout. And 14th on Mary Lou Retton. I'm not sure what that workout was, but everything else was pretty good, including ending with 3 straight wins. I think Kyle's just joined us here. See if I can bring him in. Yeah. We'll come back to that later. Yes, Kyle.
How's it going, man?
Yeah. Well, here's our first question of the day. How am I dealing with the language barrier? So this is my buddy back in the States, and let's see how you deal with the language barrier.
Yeah, I think we started the language, so.
You know what? I was up in Norway for the last 2 weeks, and I met some friends there from different parts of Europe. It's actually a really culturally diverse city, Oslo. I didn't necessarily know that. And we were talking about the English language because they were asking me some questions. And I, despite being from the US, told them, I said, hey, the United States was not speaking English before the United Kingdom was. So anything that seems like a discrepancy between those two, now it feels like, because, the United States has had such a global impact, that brand of English is kind of like the one that's the go-to. But you guys were speaking here long before us.
Yeah, Hollywood. So when I lived in America for a while, and we had people from all over. It was soccer, and the people in our team, lots of the people from Europe, who, I mean, maybe because they were obviously coming to America, that maybe helped them choose that way of learning it. I think they all learned American English, and I think a lot of that comes probably from Hollywood, just because that they're used to watching movies and hearing it be spoken in an American accent more often than not. If you're like a German or French or something like that, and you're learning English, a lot of times the stuff that you maybe fill yourself with and watch will be movies to try and keep up to date with it. Or just have it surrounding you. So then, if you're watching movies, it's generally going to be American rather than English movies. Yeah.
No, absolutely right about that. There was one question before you.
Struggle to pick that up there, Brian? Did you struggle to pick that up there? And I said, did you struggle to pick anything up that I said there?
No, I got you.
You got it right. Good. You start getting some tables.
Scott Hearns was asking me to release the workouts before you came on the show.
Yeah, no chance, Scott. No chance.
But let's I know that you've got a ton going on this week, getting everything ready for the weekend. So I want to, give people an opportunity for you to share maybe just a brief history of the WOD on the Loch, and then we're going to look at some of the stuff that you have released, because just in general, the competition is unique compared to a lot of other competitions that people see. Yeah,
so history-wise, I started the company in October 2019. So the first year of the festival, in terms of the event, in terms of the planning for it, was the COVID year. So we were the reason why I started the event at the time. In the UK, there really wasn't a lot of competitions at all, and in Scotland there was only one, and it had only been there for 1 year. We have got Proving Grounds now, which just came back, which was an older event, which now came back, which is great, and it adds another big event later on in the year, in the kind of indoor arena in the autumn, which is cool. But really at the time there was nothing, and so I've been obsessed with the games for as long as I've been obsessed with CrossFit. That's what got me into CrossFit initially. And so I've always loved Dave Castle's programming and looking at how he develops things. And I think initially, because I came from a strength and conditioning background, and so the idea before I started CrossFit of the fittest on earth being the person who wins the CrossFit games, I just was like very dubious about that. And to me, I always, I thought, surely the person who wins the decathlon at the Olympics, they're going to be the best athlete, that type of thing, because, just athletic wise. Until you try CrossFit and realize, that is it doesn't take long of doing CrossFit before you realize these guys are the fittest people on the planet, by a long shot, because having skills and having strength and having all these things, even capacity, if you can't do it all together, it's just it's not the same. So so when I looked at that, I thought I would love, my dream job would be to program the games. That would be amazing. So I basically used to think about a lot, what kind of events. I've always done a lot of programming anyway, and so I would what type of events would test this, test that, and I've always just written events down, and I always wanted to create something myself. And when there was that clear gap in the market, and especially the idea that, you know, I love the mountains. I speak about this a lot. Like, I love the mountains. I love Scotland and the scenery. I do a lot outdoors. A lot of my fitness, when I can, when I'm not, you know, heading towards a competition, is very much like in the mountains as much as I can be at the weekends, zone 2 outdoors rather than on a stationary bike, things like that. And so I wanted to combine my love for CrossFit, for fitness, with Scotland's beauty and the mountains and stuff. And Loch is like one of my favourite places in the world. It's just a beautiful bit, and it's not that hard to get to. And Loch Lomond, it just feels like you're, you know, transported to somewhere tiny and beautiful and tranquil, despite it being so close to some amenities. So, like, that was a great place for me to create it. And we planned the event to be initially for 2020. It was supposed to be indoor arena and outdoor stuff at Loch Lomond. That was the original plan. And I think these are pictures from the very first year. We didn't have a rig or anything that year. That was the very first year. But yeah, so when we planned it for 2020, that was what it was like: two spaces, indoor, outdoor stuff. And then basically when COVID shut down all the events, like, I was one of the last people to pull the event, and obviously finally had to kind of admit defeat around about March time. So it wasn't very many months out from the event actually taking place. And then the way around it for 2021 was to just have the full thing outdoors, because in the UK, that was a way around things. You could spend time outdoors, but you could have indoor arenas still. There was still a lot of restrictions for that. So we just say, let's just pivot, make the whole thing outdoors. Let's see what we can put on. And it kind of just went so well. We made it into a full-blown fitness festival. And yeah, from there, it's just taken off. And every year it's got bigger and better, but we've stuck true to, like, using the outdoors, being on the Loch, outdoor events. And I think one of the most unique things about it is that because every athlete, scaled, intermediate, RX, all gets to compete over 2 days, it's the programming is never watered down. I speak about this a lot. Like, if you want to make money in an event, don't put on an individual event. Like, anyone who wants to make money puts on team events, because you can squeeze so many more athletes in, and they all think they're paying a little bit less, but you're making a lot more. And then, you know, you can cover costs much more easily. And then also there's other ways to do it: split events, where you have like, you know, a couple of divisions one day, a couple of divisions the next day, and again each division competes over 1 day. These are all the things that you would do if you just cared about making money. But to me, like, I do this because I enjoy it, and I love the legitimacy of the test. Like, that's so important to me. As much as obviously everyone coming and having fun, like, the test is so important. So the programming, and then not biasing the program one way or another. So that's obviously, that means you have to test long, you have to test short, you have to test every type of element. And so to do that, it means everyone competes over 2 days. It allows me the freedom to have big long events. I mean, this year, for those who have looked at the heat times already, like, one of the event slots for event 1 are like 1 hour 45. So there's a lot of I try to test every single modality, movement patterns, like energy systems, like just, you know, monostructural gymnastic, weightlifting, everything, as well as time domains are all really well balanced. And yeah, so yeah, this is the first.
You reached out to me a couple of years ago. I want to say it was like 3 years ago, because you know, before you came on the show, I mentioned that my perception, and you just talked to it and kind of affirmed it, is that you have a lot of pride in your programming, and you actually noticed some elements of things that you've programmed, sometimes even kind of close replications, show up at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's been really cool. It's funny, like, some of the guys will send me stuff like every year, because we're just before the games. Like, sometimes it can be the same year, sometimes it can be the year after. But like, we'll program something, and then like a year later, or that summer, you know, a month later, it comes up at the games, and it's just like, it's always funny to see like the similarities, and that's cool. Like, to me, like, I'm really just going off of, you know, years of watching the games, years of watching it, and then obviously like studying and the methodology, and so if I'm thinking in line with Dave Castro, then it's, you know, it's more testament to him. It's cool. It's cool, obviously.
Well, no, he wouldn't say. I mean, I know, because do you know my friend J.R. Howell?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, a couple years ago when I put him in touch with Sevon, and Sevon had him on the shows prior to the CrossFit Games, and he kind of like picked up on some clues and actually, projected some things that ended up happening. Boz, he went back and he was like, yeah, that was impressive. JR has obviously done his homework. And so those guys would give, they're not necessarily out there looking at all of the programmers that are programming these things around the world. But when something comes across that they resonate with, I think they would give you guys credit for that too.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think a good thing and like you talk about it in any spectrum, like the idea of people who are successful are generally people who are good at spotting patterns. And I think that's something I'm generally quite good at, spotting patterns and just seeing how things develop. And I think probably there's some good coaches that you see now. So they talk about the percentage of odd objects used, for example, the games now versus barbells, compared to semi-finals, compared to games, etc. And I think when you look at, like, I've always tried to create WOD and Loch like the next best thing to the CrossFit Games. That's always what I've advertised as, videos even speaking about it. Like, this is for people who are never going to compete at the CrossFit Games. This year we've probably got people for the first time who actually have competed at the CrossFit Games, as we've obviously continued to grow. But before, last few years, like, people who are competing, there's some really high level athletes, but no one's good enough to the games. There's levels to this. And so, like, but then all the way down to skilled athletes, like, we're not going to get to the games, but like, let's create something that is close to that and gives you that games level, games type experience in terms of the events that you can't do in your gym. That if you were to try and organise them, you're going to have to go and hire stuff, and just, come here and you compete in the outdoors, do all these things that are like game style events with odd objects. But I definitely think when you spot patterns and start to see things, like when our very first year, we did the sandbag clean ladder, and that was like 2 years before the games done it. You can just spot patterns. People were starting to use things. And I think initially I was wanting to do like a snatch ladder in the indoor arena in 2020. And then when we looked at going outdoors and some of the stuff we're going to do, it's like a sandbag event where you had crazily, heavy sandbags increasing. Was just such a cool thing to do with the program and have them on the floor, and made some really cool moments. The first year, obviously, there was the level of athletes is improved, and I think if we were to bring that back, so many more people would manage it. But like, only one person managed to, in the male RX, managed to clean the 125 kilo sandbag, so that's like 275. So whereas now I think much more people could, which is cool. So even that, you can see how it improved. The other reason why I created the event, it was obviously to create something that I wanted to build. It at the same time, it was to try and push the sport on in this country, because at the time, you looked at any event, like, people would go from here down to like the northeast of England and compete. There was more competitions down there, or further afield down to the middle of England. And to be honest with you, they would get destroyed, because the strength and depth down there, the strength of field was just much higher. And when you looked at even from the early on, we did like the Open and quarterfinals leaderboards, and the Scottish athletes comparatively to like in the UK, when you can filter for the UK, we're just so far down. Unfortunately, we don't have a separate flag on the games app, but we put a lot of effort into knowing all the athletes and filtering and just having them all like in a database. So then we can just, unless athletes come up, we're always trying to keep an eye on ones coming up. But all the ones we've seen here, we can just look at them all. So we filter and look at them, and you can see how the standard of athletes in this country has just continued to grow. And that's also not down to us, but there's been a whole.
Well, I mean, even if you look here, you guys put this post out end of April this season, and Anita McCartney went down and won the UK championships two weeks ago, or last weekend.
She competed at WOD and Loch the last 2 years, so she's the reigning champion 2 years in a row of WOD and Loch. She won last year and the year before, and it's been cool. Like, people like her, it's been really cool to see her grow and get better and better. Like, she trains a lot with Mike, who's also won on the male side the last 2 years in a row, and they know each other well. And he's not in this; he never did quarterfinals this year. But they're both great swimmers, so they both use the outdoors as part of their training, and use a lot of both of them would be better at games than they would be at most in arena events, which is cool. And I think that's the very first year there was athletes that came who were used to competing at the kind of typical type of events, open quarterfinals style indoor, and a lot of them did get exposed when the outdoor elements were added. And you can either choose to ignore those weaknesses, or you can choose to go and work on them. And I think those who have went away and worked on them, it's just made them better. I think every year it's pretty cool. So this year we're not doing a swim for the first year, but every year when you look at like June, July time, 6 weeks leading up to it, every weekend people will be posting themselves out swimming in the lochs, swimming in lakes and different places. It's so cool to see, because you're making people do it. They know they're going to have to do it. Then it just adds an element of training that they would never usually put themselves in, and makes them go outside their comfort zone, which is cool. And that's how you push people on. And there's other things like people would say that our intermediate division is kind of like notoriously hard, because I've got a bit of a hatred for intermediate athletes.
Hey,
because
no, I won't take it personally, but that's definitely me.
It's because the people who are in that kind of self-limiting division sometimes are those who are maybe really good at one side of things, like they're maybe really good at gymnastics, or they're really strong in a barbell, but then they choose not to work on their weaknesses. And so, because in the box generally they'll be doing RX workouts all the time, but then when it comes to the competition they say, I can't do double unders, or I can't lift those weights, or I can't do ring muscle ups, so I'll just do intermediate. And it's like, if you've got pretty much everything apart from one or two skills, or you need to work on some strength, go and work on the strength then, or go and work on the skills, and then you can compete. It never used to be intermediate divisions, but it's so that the whole point of that division is to try and bridge the gap. So we do push people in some of the skills that we put in, not in every event, but like we'll put one event at least every year that the intermediate athletes have to do something that's quite difficult for a typical intermediate level. And that way, we've seen a really good progression. We've seen a lot of athletes who, and generally speaking, the athletes that come to WOD and Loch, they come back year on year, which is really good. And that's a great advertisement in itself to me, that we're doing something right. And generally, those people who do return compared to those who don't are the ones with the right mindset. They have the mindset that they want to improve things, and it's so cool to see them. They'll message year round, and they'll talk about how, I'm definitely going to get it this year. There'll be people who, from 2021, in fact, there's a couple of people I'm thinking of, and if they're listening, they'll kind of maybe think of themselves, that have been like scaled 2021, intermediate 2022, RX 2023, and you can see the progression of these athletes, and it's so cool to see them progress and push themselves on. And that if WOD and Loch's a big event every year, then it's something that they'll push towards. I know there's going to be handstand walking, for example, and we really like folk to handstand walk on the grass, because it's a lot harder for most people than it would be on mats, and so it gives them an extra element. I learned to handstand walk on grass because it just meant you didn't have to worry. I feel like, so I don't mind on the grass at all, but for people who are used to it in the gym, it adds an extra element. And so there's certain things we obviously put in most years, and people try and practice these things. It's cool. It's really good. And it does push the sport on. Also, just the fact of when we came out after COVID, there was a boom worldwide, I think, but definitely in the UK, of events coming up. And I think when events come to you, or people come to your events, they see things. Sometimes it's rightly and sometimes it's wrongly, but they look at it and think, I could put something on, and it inspires other people to put events on. And although sometimes they might pop up and only last a year or 2 years, because it's not easy making these events, and it's definitely not easy to make money from them if that's your goal. You've really got to be in it for the passion, I think. But it's cool when other events pop up. So the industry, or the community and competition scene up in Scotland now is really, really good. There are events happening pretty much all year round, from small in-gym events, which are even the small in-gym events, like Reaver Games, try to think some other ones that are really good. They put a lot of effort into, although it's in a gym, it's as professional as it can be, and they still give a great athlete experience. And then obviously with Proving Grounds coming back, and then you've still got Clash of the Clans, which was the one that was there when we started this, a big team event. You've got lots of different events at different points in the year, and we have people coming up from, even for these events, coming up from down south, different people. The benefit of it with ourselves and how we use them.
When you say down south, do you mean from England?
From England, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. So Scotland is on top, yeah. So down south is.
Oh, it could be like you could say up north and mean the Highlands, I think it's called, but I didn't know if there was like a southern region of Scotland?
Nah, so Scotland, like the Highlands is just part of Scotland. So yeah, we're not that big, we're not that big, Scotland. So yeah, I mean, technically like Perth is like the gateway to the Highlands, and then from there on you're up north. But yeah,
this this athlete pack you put out, this is a pretty nice document. Is this something that you've been doing for a while?
Yeah, we put these out pretty much every year. Yeah, it's some stuff like when you do your research, like I think there's a part of you, especially when you do different. I compete a lot myself, and when you do different events, you pick things up, and so like imitation is the best form of flattery. I think I've seen this type of thing. I've tried to refine it and obviously improve on it. You always try and better it. But you've seen little athlete packs like this be sent out before, and we just try to make it a little bit better, give as much information as possible, explain to people, especially because like I know I've competed abroad, and when we compete abroad, generally it's going to be different. If you're competing in Europe, it's a different language. So if I'm over in Spain, from over in Italy, whatever it is, you're going to competing somewhere where it's a different language, and it can be frustrating and difficult because you're like, I don't know anything, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's happening. Can you provide me with some information? And can it be difficult? It can be difficult. So because we appeal to a like worldwide audience, people come across and make a full, big holiday of it. They'll come to Scotland, they'll do the event, and then they'll take a couple of weeks either side and travel, and they'll go up north to the Highlands, and they'll do, they'll see stuff. Excuse me. So yeah, we try and provide this so that people know where they're going, what's happening, places to stay. We do deals with different hotels and give kind of 3 different options for people to stay: high ticket, medium price, and then kind of budget options of camping and stuff like that. So we give just options for people to do and try and create, just give them as much information as they can to settle the nerves if you're coming from abroad.
I wanted to ask you about this because the water event disclaimer that you put here at the start, it reminded me of the crit race when they did the crit race at the games, where like, a month or so before the competition, they basically said, hey, you guys need to know how to clip into a bike. And that's all we're telling you. And I when I was reading through this, I got like reminiscent of that.
Yeah, you don't want to skip it in a way, but at the same time, you kind of have to let people know what they need and what they don't need. This is the first year.
This last sentence, the water event is an adventure race. No, is that? Oh no, where is it here?
Yeah. It's an adventure race like nothing you've ever experienced before in CrossFit. An adventure race, along the merry. Yeah. Oh, what was the bit you were asking
about? Oh, maybe I saw it somewhere else. I don't know. It said something like you might have to be in the water for a while, basically.
Yeah, that was in another thing I posted. I can't remember where that was, but yeah, you will. You made me in the water for a while. Yeah.
No, but I like that. It's like, and like you said, you've now laid a groundwork or communicated a message over time that, these are some of the things that make WOD on the Loch unique. You have the grass field, you have water nearby. You like incorporating some of that out object. We saw that kind of sandbag that they were using in the first year even. And that is fun. I mean, when people talk about the CrossFit Games, even if you listen to some of the interviews that Dave has done with this year's athletes, they're saying some of my favorite things or some of the things I'm looking most forward to about the games are the stuff that you can't do anywhere else. But that's not 100%. True. There are other places you can do it.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Maybe not for some of those guys, but yeah. Yeah, there are places you can do some of this stuff. Us being one of them. So yeah, if you try to get like I speak to Taylor quite a lot, Taylor himself, and we was on the other day, and I tried to beat him at Kill Taylor the other day. And
wait, which one did you call in for?
This week, just Saturday there, the sandbag over the shoulder and the lunges. Yeah.
I haven't been able to. Did he do that one twice now?
Yeah, but he just had an extra round this week because no one really called it in the week before. Yeah, but I like very rarely am I in the gym at that time of day because of when they go live, and I just so happened to be in because we were doing the judges briefing beforehand on the Saturday when we would usually train for the event this next weekend. So I was in the gym and I actually was on the toilet. And I was like, oh, they're live right now. Sent a message and then got a link straight away. And I didn't even have a chance to take the floor to even do a bodyweight lunge or anything, and my back blew up immediately. Yeah.
And I mean, for people who don't know you, like you said, you do compete. You are rather
Yeah.
fit. I mean, you showed up in the top 20 in Scotland this year. I'm sure you do many years. And then, so what I was really curious is how much of the testing for Wide on the Loch do you do yourselves when it comes to these events compared to maybe lean on some other friends or athletes, you know?
I do a full testing day every year. So generally, we used to do it in September the year before, but then just with everything being so tight, we usually do it in May now. So we have to wait till the Loch gets warm again, before we go back in it. So yeah, May time, we have like a big group of people, and I just reach out to friends in the community. So we generally have like 2 or 3 intermediate athletes, 2 or 3 skilled athletes, 2 or 3 RX athletes at least. So generally 9 to like 12 people in the testing team, and we just go, and generally it's a 2-day event, but we'll hit every event in 1 day in order. It's a hard day, but it's good. It's great fun. So yeah, I'm always one of them. I always love to test one events. Generally speaking, I'll test some pieces beforehand anyway, and I'll have an idea of how I want it to be. I'll test and retest, but the testing day, the events are set, but there's still lots of wee bits and pieces we'll change and tweak, and we'll try things out. We'll try weights, and if people can't do it and maybe I've overestimated or underestimated, we'll change bits and pieces. So that's what the testing day is for, just refining things and then working out time caps and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm always involved in the testing. I test all my own events. It's always funny because like if there's one event in the world I would want to compete in, it would be one Loch, obviously apart from the games. Like I try to create something that I would love to compete at, and there's not really much like it, unfortunately. So when I do the test, and I always take note of my scores, and then I say to Mike and a few others who are like pushing for the podium, like if they might beat me on stuff. This year people will be too good probably, and no, but there's a few years where I was like, yeah, I don't think I would have probably came first or second or whatever on overall based on my numbers in the testing, which is cool to see. But yeah, no, I think
when you go,
when you're the leaderboard, see when you're the top 20 in Scotland, that's an example of how much the standards has improved in this country. It's crazy because back in like 2021, I can't remember exactly where I was. Like, I could have been like, I could probably look it up in the games.
Do you post this every year? Like, if I scroll back far enough, will I find it?
Yeah, you could go back and look. So every year we do this. I mean, you'd be looking away back 2021. I was like 10th in Scotland, but I was like really low in Europe. This year, like as everyone has, and continue to progress and push on. I finished a lot higher in Europe, but then I was only 12th in Scotland. It shows how much the standards improved. Yeah, so like I can't remember what it would be in Europe, but like worldwide.
Oh, this is 2023.
2023, yeah. That's quarterfinals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even like, you look at the numbers there, like it's continually improved to the point where the people who are finishing like say 10th in Scotland, like how high you have to place worldwide in Europe, worldwide or in Europe to get 10th in Scotland is getting harder and harder because people are, I think a wee bit higher than that. A wee bit up. 2020, keep going up. Keep going. Quarterfinals rankings there, the blue one. That was 20.
This is from April 22.
Yeah.
There's the women.
Yeah, so you can see the numbers and where people are. Like it's so much lower each year.
Yeah, big jump. I mean,
so like how well you have to. The depth is just so much higher here. And then when you've got people like Jen Muir, obviously Anita now as well. You've got at least her and also I forgot her name. If you find another one, I'll steal that half. But so bad with this. Emma Armstrong. So between Emma Armstrong, Emma McCartney now, and then Jen, you've got 3 girls there that are pushing for semi-finals. Obviously, Jen's competed in semi-finals the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you could say she's pushing to the games now.
She definitely is. Yeah, huge.
This is 2021, and here you are actually 10th, and we see like it's going up, but like the 10th place finisher is almost going up by 300 spots a year. Yeah,
which is class. It's really good to see. Because that's obviously Europe is what it is. You've got that the numbers are the numbers, and probably if anything, the amount of athletes is maybe going up ever so slightly. But for how much of a jump you have to make in this country, just shows how much the standard here north of the borders is going up, and it's cool. And definitely think people like Jen, and then people getting together and training together, and pushing each other on. There's so much of that as well. it's really cool. Like, I love to see it.
When you do the testing, do you already have kind of the order of events in mind, or is that something that you also kind of learn as you go?
No, I already have the order in mind. Yeah, definitely. That's something that's pretty much like when it's planned out, like I get a whiteboard out and just have and kind of put it all out there and then just work it out. It's more to do with like you want to put events in an order that like creates damage and like fatigue to athletes that will carry on later on. So then when certain things come up, it's like, and also you don't want to put two things together. It's just you want to be balanced. Generally speaking, Saturday is like the day where we'll have a lot of variants, and then we'll do it's a lot more CrossFit on the Sunday. So like the individual style events, the like single modality events would be on the Saturday, or it could even just be like 2 or 3 things, whatever. But like, and the long aerobic event generally is on the Saturday as well. And so then you carry that fatigue with you for the rest of the weekend, which is important, I think.
So I've seen the workouts because of prepping for streaming them, and I see the names of the workouts here, and I have no idea what any of them mean, or most of them mean. Okay. Can you help me out with the meanings of these?
Well, do you want to put the Google Map, Google Translate just now, and you can just see what it says?
But I want to get it from your perspective. Like, what is it? How do you say it? What does it mean to you? And what would a competing athlete from Scotland, what would they interpret from seeing just the words, the title of the event?
Unfortunately, like Gaelic is not well spoken in Scotland as you would think. Like very, very few people in Scotland actually speak Gaelic. And so when I'm actually creating those, if you watch like the qualifier workouts, when the voiceovers for that, in order to get someone that can actually say the words, like I've got to reach out to, I've got like a contact in Skye, which is one of the islands, who I'll reach out to. And like, I mean, I literally have never met this woman, and every year I reach out to her and just basically say, here's the word, here's the things, can you say them to me? Because how they are written is like so far off how you would say them phonetically. So like the phonetic way of saying it is nothing like what you would imagine. Like, so you could try and say these things and it's like nothing like what you think. So
well, I'm gonna try to say them on the stream, so I better practice before that.
Okay, right, let me put this in. I'm pretty sure Reese Bath is. Yeah, like even the little apostrophes make a big difference. I'm trying to think if I flip this round and put in what I remember it being.
Dude, I was just in Norway, and they can have the same base letter if it's an A, but it has a little circle above it, or it has 2 little circles above it, or it has an A and an O pushed together above it. And they're like, yeah, it's either O, O. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's those different 3 sounds.
Yeah, I don't even know what it comes up. Yeah, so basically, I feel like if I have to translate what these are, it doesn't quite, like, it would give too much away, because people can translate it themselves. But if you put this in yourself, right?
Would I put in? But this is what's the language?
It's Scottish Gaelic.
Scottish Gaelic.
Gaelic. Gaelic.
Like it's the word there in the second event.
Yeah, yes, yeah. No, but there's no H. That's the Gaelic way of saying Gaelic.
Oh my.
Yeah, okay. So if you translate this properly, then with the apostrophes from Scottish Gaelic to English, I feel like people have done this, so you should be able to just do this yourself. Like as soon as I do it, everyone, between looking at the heat times and looking at how long they've got for each event, and then obviously translating, they try and work things out. And people are always meshing with guesses and trying to think things through. But yeah, so the first event is translated to the boat race. So that's what that's translated. Yeah.
And you did, I mean, we saw there a couple of years ago, you had kayaks. Was that before that they programmed kayaks at the CrossFit Games?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I think it was the same year or the year after. But when Dave Castro came out at the Mule with the kayaks, as if it was like never before seen at any CrossFit event, and they're like, yeah, we just did them.
Yeah, it's if I don't have the, it's funny, if I don't have the apostrophes, then it puts it in as raise his stick.
Yeah, yeah, so different. Yeah. So the second one is just Gallic Girl.
Gallic Girl. That almost
Gallic
sounds like an Ed Sheeran song.
Yes, probably.
Probably he's gonna release a song called Gallic. Has he already made a song called Gallic Girl? If he hasn't, then you're gonna take credit for that too.
Something like that. But so that's kind of obvious. Like it's we have done one before. So was it last year or the year before? Last year we did Agnes, which was like a spin on Nancy. So I always try and get a workout. Just because like you can't beat the classics for intensity. So last year we did Nancy, but instead of a 400-meter run, we did mountain bike, 400-meter mountain bike in the grass, and then overhead squats. So we did that last year, and so we called that Agnes because Nancy's Scottish for Agnes, and my grand's called Nancy, but her real name's Agnes on her birth certificate. And then the year before we did Ailey, which is the Gaelic version of Helen. So we just did Helen, exactly as written. Yeah, so this year.
Was that the year they did Helen at the games?
No, it was the year before that. So we did Helen the year before they did Helen.
These are the things that you were telling me. You like reached out. You're like, dude, we did swim kayak like 2 years ago.
Yeah, because
we did Helen last year at Wild on the Loch. I'm like, and that's when I was like, after you did this 3 times, I was like, I got to get to this guy's event.
Yeah. It's because at the time when we came across you, you were helping obviously doing Savan podcast, and you're completely for your expertise and your knowledge of like events and things like that. I knew that was something that you were always trying to keep your eye on things in the worldwide and what events were going on. And so like I remember when they commentated on the sandbag clean event, and when like what's her name cleaned like the 205 or something like that, like sandbag or something. I think it was actually less, maybe 80 kilos, whatever it was. And Chase Ingram was saying like this is the heaviest sandbag ever seen in CrossFit for women, in CrossFit competition. And I was like, no, it's not, because we had heavier than that won the Loch at the very first year. And so I know that was something that you would want to know, because I know you don't like mistakes like that. I love Chase, by the way, but just yeah.
So, I think when they say those, I think when they speaking about that, they're speaking about inside the game season.
Yeah.
I try my best as much as anybody probably to keep a pulse on what's going on in CrossFit globally, and there's just so many competitions. But the ones that I'm aware of, I did start to pick up on a pattern from just talking to you periodically over the years, that you do kind of have this kind of knack for exactly what you talked about earlier, of studying the history of the games and finding patterns that then you implement, and sometimes they just happen to pop up a year or two before something very similar at the games.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's cool to see, and it's always good because the athletes who have just done that, they'll just post all their pictures from that event as if during the games, because it's like, I've just done this event. It's cool to see obviously their heroes do the same events, and it's really cool.
I put in, when I first looked at it, I saw fear leader, and I think fear ladder. That's what, but I put it in here and it says a strong man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
either way, it sounds like a lifting event to me. So you get a boat race, some kind of girl something, and a strongman event or a lifting event on the first day, and that seems pretty good.
Yeah, so I spin on a Gaelic or Scottish spin on a girl workout, and then lifting event. So you've got a good balance across the day. You've got a long monostructural event, you've got a mixed modality classic event, and then you've got like a lifting event. So you get good balance, and then as always, like Sunday moving day, you get the CrossFit where you get mixed modality, a bit more complex, a bit harder.
I mean, in some ways, like that, this first day, just without knowing any details, is the 2007 CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? They had exactly what you just said: a lifting, a long, and a metcon.
100%. Yeah.
But
You
I
know,
also like that you put out, like, the names have a meaning. They mean something to you. They might mean something to some people, but you're not going to look at this name, even if you know perfect Scottish Gaelic. You're not going to say, "Oh, a boat race. I know exactly what Kyle programmed." Oh,
yeah.
you know, there's
Can't be
just
too obvious.
still a lot of
Yeah.
room for the imagination to kind of wander. You might be able to hone in on a range of things, but
Yeah, when you're looking at
surprised.
when you're looking at event 3, and you notice a lifting event, and then you look at the heat times and you see there's like 3-minute window for each athlete, then you notice you can start to put a picture together, I suppose, in a sense. And then when you look at the first one and then you see it's an hour and 45, yeah, it gives a good balance. And you probably could look, even like if you know it's a girl workout, the second workout, then you could probably look at the girl workouts and try and work it out, because there's like half an hour time slot, so it's not something that's rapid either. Unless we have long gaps. But yeah.
So I put in event 4, and I mean, there's no apostrophes or symbols there on top of the letters, and it says the separator.
Exactly, the divider, the separator. So that is exactly what this event is. It is you might do really well because
it's not the separator from 2016 CrossFit Games.
No, it's not. No. But it's definitely going to separate the men from the boys in some of these and some of the stuff. Because without giving anything away, the second event and the first event are exactly the same for every division: scaled, intermediate, RX, no differences.
Which is that's really cool. I remember there was speaking of boat race, there was a rowing race at Wadapalooza. I think it was 2021 or 22. I think it was 22, because I don't think it had in 21. And everyone had the same race. It was like you had to meet certain requirements to advance, and then it was the last interval was like AMRAP meters or something. And the best 2 scores of the entire day didn't come out of the elite division. They didn't come out of the RX division. They both came out of the intermediate men's division, where there was just these 2 guys that were insane on the rower, and they beat Vellner and they beat the rest of the men's field.
It's really cool. We always tend to do that anyway with the long structural events. So like we had the mountain bike crit race, we had mountain trail run, where everyone went together, like everyone went all at once. Every division just all went a mass start, like, and 5 people at a time, just every 10 seconds, just went, and then just like it's all chip timed. And so we had 100 odd athletes on the mountain all at once, just running up and down this hill. And then so like even the year we did the swimming kayak, anything like that, monostructural, there's no reason why you wouldn't make it the same for every division. So we always do that generally with the longer events anyway. But this year in the qualifiers, we deliberately had one qualifier event, which was exactly the same for every division. And it just, if you're fitter, it just means you've got to go faster. If you're stronger, it's going to feel lighter for you, so it's just going to hurt more. So like that is the idea. Like you'll see some really crazy times, but you might, like you say, see someone in the intermediate division do really well that actually may beat the RX guys. You never know. I don't think so, because it is definitely, yeah, I don't think so, but it's
and then I've actually figured out how to use the accent key. So I've been able to translate these things now. Sprint careful is what this is translating as to me.
You're coming up saying sprint careful right now? That's not quite right. The separator anyway, the separator is definitely the thing where there's going to be a lot of people on the one before who are just going to be standing around, potentially, because it's high scale movements, it's heavy stuff, and so if you can't do it, then that's the one event you might be getting some time.
Well, and that's what that's what you said 20 minutes ago, is that you like to put something in there that's going to challenge people, and it'll challenge people. And like you said, some may not be able to do it, but then they'll probably be motivated to go back and be like, wow, I got to figure that out. And you know what? That's what happened to the CrossFit Games athletes with the crossover double unders 3 years ago. And I think it was Justin Medeiros talking to Dave. He's like, you should bring those back, because now all of us know how to do it now, and you're going to see a high display of athleticism.
Yeah, really, that's translating to that back the way. When you translate it the other way, it doesn't. But I'll put it in the other way, and I'll flip it around and show you. But
we got some local guys here. Jan Clark, buddy of mine.
Yeah,
up here somewhere in Scotland. Jake Chapman from the Isle of Man over there. What does this mean?
That was because that's what they were slagging me for. because I got a big bum. When I was going against Taylor and Kill Taylor.
Oh, I just saw that one.
That's what I was getting ripped for. Yeah, that's what I was getting ripped for, having a big ass. So
these
sprint
the
chipper
names
is
of
what
these
that is.
sprint chipper.
Yes, that's what it means.
Oh, okay. Well, Google translates. It's like
Yeah.
accurate sometimes.
Sometimes I'll say,
careful.
And she'll be like, that you could have it this, or you could have it this way. This makes more sense if you do it this way, because like even from Google Translate, it's not quite right based on the way that they'll say it or whatever. So I just go with what she says because she speaks it. So
if it's wrong, you can blame her anyway.
Yeah, I've offered her a ticket every year, but she never gets across from the island.
Yeah. And then the final is just called final.
It's just the final, yeah. I don't want to give anything away with that. But the final is something. I don't know if I've did I tell you about the final already? Have I told you that?
Let me look. I'm not going to look at. I'm not. Wait. Let me just pull this down just in case. I think I might have it.
I've not actually made an image for it, so because I don't generally put the graphic out there.
So you sent me something. It's final, and then it has a little detail afterwards. It's not a Gallic thing.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's like something I've never seen at any event. It's something that's so like synonymous with CrossFit. Like, why does it not get used more for events? But I think you can't find a better place for it than in a final. And an absolute ideal scenario would be you go into the final, RX male, RX female. You've got two people tied on points, and we've got the biggest prize purse we've ever had. I think it's the biggest prize purse ever in Scotland, and in terms of how much you can win individually. So it's a big prize purse this year in our respects anyway, worldwide, but like it's big for us. And so if you want the money, if you want to win, most of the things is pride is the biggest thing anyway. You're not thinking about the money, you just want to win. But like it really will come down to who wants it more. Like if two people that are tied on points or even close on points, it just comes down to how bad do you want it, how much you want to hurt.
Well, and I think that there's once again, there's an element of that's going to be at this year's CrossFit Games, which is Chad being the workout right before the cut, because there's going to be a couple athletes that are this close on points, and it's like you want to keep competing, step faster.
Yeah, it's hard because like when you think about that, like you would never put like Chad as a final. So then when you think initially, maybe when people thought about it coming out, they would imagine it'd be like one of the first events, so everyone can take that damage into the rest of the weekend. But actually, where he's played it is such a smart way of doing it, because you still get an impetus and a stint. Like people who are way out in front, they'll still want to do well, but they maybe won't have as much of a drive if they say Brent and Pat are next to each other and Brent's a couple of steps ahead. Are they going to race, or are they going to do like the marathon row and just say, let's just stick as it is, so no one has to sprint and no one has to put more fatigue on themselves? But like you say, if you're right on the cut line, you're going to be sending it.
And they have the field events, or the outdoor event at the Fairfield, whatever it's called. Like I haven't.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that goes late into the night. Like the time slot for ESPN is I think 8 to 10 p.m. local time. So you're going to have like one of your later nights ever at the CrossFit Games, and then potentially have to come back in the morning, presumably, and hit Chad for your tournament life.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So you've put out those teasers, we'll call them, about the names of the workouts, but when will the athletes actually find out what they're doing?
So they only find out what they're doing on Saturday morning, and they'll only find out what they're doing on Sunday morning. So they won't even know the Sunday events on the Saturday. Yeah.
Is that pretty traditional, the way that you've always done it, or have you changed it?
Much, sometimes I'll release something on the Friday night, like the big event on the big structure event. I'll maybe release that on the Friday night, just so people can see. Like, but this year, because this is the thing, Strava's pretty cool now. So when I tested the events, I just tracked it on my Strava and made it private. So then you can click and watch through like the full route and what we're doing on the first event. So that will go out. Basically, I'll announce the events, the briefing at 7:30 in the morning. And then before the events kick off, like as soon as I finish briefing at 8 o'clock, they'll all get posted on the social media. So at 8 o'clock, everyone will, they'll go on the social media, people will be able to see them. And then that means And sorry, I'm just going to close this door. I think somebody's coming. 2 seconds.
Yeah, if you got to go, just let me know.
Oh, I just have a wee seat at the couch. I'll just be 5 minutes. All right. Yeah, so that they'll have. Sorry, I'm all good. So yeah, those events will come out and the routes and stuff will come out with it. So we don't really need. A lot of times that's been just so that people know what's happening. Because we don't have time to walk them through the actual event itself, but because we have that video, I can just post that and people have the route. And it's hard to get lost. We have like a lot of safety boats and safety people out there, so it's hard to get lost.
What are the parentheses next to the events mean? There's this 5 and then there's a bunch of 1s.
It's just a key to where they are. So if you scroll up to the map.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So that's from that. Yeah, that's been taken from. Yeah, so you can see where that is basically. Yeah.
That makes sense. 5 over here. All the other ones are on the main field. Got it. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's I hope that for the people that are, that are watching that have never seen before, that it's pretty clear the level of attention to detail that you give to creating all these things. And that, that thing about just releasing the workouts the day of the competition, I think a lot of competition directors are afraid to do that. But I think about it the way that I think about running a box, running an affiliate, is that, you basically condition your members over time so that they become used to the way that you just, whether it's releasing workouts the night before or you release them a week at a time, or you give them a strength cycle and they know you're doing this. But, and then maybe the Metcons come up a little bit later anyway, but that's the way that you do it there. I think it's really cool. You listen to, again, all those, I think those interviews that Dave is doing with the CrossFit Games athletes is a great idea for many reasons. But one of the things that a lot of them say is I like finding out the workouts pretty late in the day, even the day of or right before we take the floor or in the corral or whatever. And again, you've been able to take an element of Dave Castro's kind of DNA at the CrossFit Games and give it to the local athletes here in Scotland, the UK, and as we saw in one of the slides I showed, there's actually maybe like 15 different countries that are represented this year.
Yeah, it's just pretty cool to see how many people from around the world are coming. Last year we had people from all over as well, like French Polynesian Islands and all sorts, like New Zealand, and yeah, it's crazy. But the unknown and unknowable element of releasing the events on the day is just, I think that's so important. It's such a big part of CrossFit. Be ready for anything, the unknown and unknowable. Obviously, there is, these are just a few places that we'll come from. It's bad. But like, if you look at, even for myself competing, it is cool in a sense. Like, if I'm competing at a big event and they tell me there's going to be something, like we're going to be in the water, or we're going to be doing this, it does promote you to then go and train that thing. So obviously this year, people knowing that there's not a swim, people haven't been in the water swimming. So like, if we hadn't said that, people would be training different things. So you have to give us some form of framework, but at the same time, you want people to be like, basically, yes, rounded training for everything. I know from myself personally, I prefer not to know things because it gives the better athletes get a more of an advantage in that scenario. I think that the best athletes are adaptable, the best athletes are well-rounded. And if you tell someone in advance who maybe isn't very coordinated, who isn't very athletic naturally.
Wait, is this the boat race?
This is the pedalo race that I want to be doing. Yeah. So yeah, Sorry. I think if you're a coordinated athletic person who's maybe played sports growing up and can pick an object up and run with it, and it starts to get a wee bit awkward, and you can adapt and adjust things, you can adapt on the fly. They're the best athletes, and they're going to do best when they don't know the events ahead of time. Whereas someone who maybe isn't naturally that athletic or like has to like try things over and over again, if you give them a month to practice something, then it takes away that element of like, let's see who it actually is. Like the neurological components of fitness, like when you look at agility, balance, coordination, agility, accuracy, these neurological components of fitness, they're such a big part of CrossFit. And if you kind of take that element away by telling them in advance, then it's like you just level the playing field a little bit for those who maybe aren't as good. So like, no, you better be ready for anything and whatever comes up. The funny thing is, like, as I said, we actually mentioned it in that story. I know people know that there's going to be handstand walking because there generally always is. But people who've been trying and practicing handstand walking for like all year round, They may, they may not even get to do it because they can't do the stuff that comes before. I know it sounds cruel, but it's like
it's like, but hey, but that's how it wasn't. That's how it was in the Open that one year. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
if you got through Diane, you still had to do 21 heavy deadlifts before you could even kick up on your hands, and there was a pretty tight cap for the recreational CrossFitter.
Yeah. Anyway, sadly, Brian, I'm gonna have to go because I still have to run this affiliate, and I've got an intro just now, so I'm gonna go. And then I've got to get some other stuff organised. But great to chat to you. Looking forward to you finally arriving here. Whereabouts are you now? Aberdeen still?
I'm in Aberdeen. I'm gonna go over to CrossFit Aberdeen in a couple hours and hit a training session with Rob.
Cool.
I think
tomorrow
I will. Tomorrow I'm gonna head down to Glasgow and meet up with Ian and Gavin, and then Wednesday I'm gonna meet up with Jen Weir and Fraser Clark.
Cool.
Thursday I might pop over to Edinburgh just to do a little historical visit, and then Friday I'm gonna head up and see you guys.
All right, exciting times. Nice one. Right, I'll see you on Friday.
Okay, thanks for taking time, Kyle.
Right.
Kyle Russell, WOD on the Loch. I know at least a couple of you guys were kind of interested in some of the stuff he was talking about. The athlete list isn't the most premier athlete list of the competitions that I'll go to, but the workouts are pretty cool. The venue is supposed to be very cool. And his programming, I think everything he said kind of speaks for itself, that it's going to be challenging, entertaining. So I'll do my best to bring you guys the coverage of it so you can get a look at it. I know he's excited for people to be able to see, people who aren't here and aren't able to come to be able to see what he's put together for the athletes this year. Oh, I know. I can't keep track of the time. Maybe Sevan is starting his podcast now. That's okay. We just do the podcast when we can do them. Loch Lomond is cool. Yeah. And I'm excited to get up there. What did you say earlier? I'm sitting outside in the first day of sun Scotland's had this summer doing my client check-ins or chickens, whatever you said. Is there sun up there? The sun's kind of poking through the clouds here. You can see the light, I guess, coming in. Yeah. The area for the event is excellent. Yes. Anyway, so hopefully that was cool. A little preview for you there. If you got on right at the beginning of the show, I was taking a look at the results from the Monster Games this past weekend. So I'm just gonna go back and look at that real quickly. But we'll have rain in Glasgow. Oh, well, I'm not down there yet. I'm in Aberdeen today. I'm gonna go out for a walk, I think. Yeah, CJ Gerald that we had looked at was I think he was kind of the expected favorite in this one. Drake Stevens probably expected second. I would have probably picked Dalton third, but Kyle Pedersen sneaks in here. Always fun to look at these kind of off-season events because you sometimes see some names pop up that end up making a difference later on. In the women's side, again, the girls that I expected were first, second, and fourth. I don't know Tori Faisal, 2 I's, double I, double S. Interesting. Optimum Performance Training, OPT. I wonder if she's from Canada. What? Huh. Anyway, Caitlin Sanders, semifinals athlete. Taylor Detman used to be Taylor Stride, Blue City, and 2019 Games athlete. I believe she's finished somewhere in the 60s. And Morgan Porter. Patrick works with Morgan Porter, I think. So pretty good. The names you expect to come to the top. Again, there was a big gap from first to second. Caitlin, Lauren Cleo did an interview with her after the competition. She seemed a little surprised maybe by the results, but I wasn't surprised. I think she's quite good. Isabel Simonis, another friend of ours, Bryn Curlin from TTT. So they had some athletes over there for sure. But this is not something that most of you guys would care about, but it's something that's important to me. Scroll through all these divisions they have here. My buddy from back home, Nikita, and who I've maybe talked about a couple of times in the past, and Alex Soroka, who some of you guys may know from CrossFit Media Space. They've been really busting their ass, putting some hard work for this. I actually hooked them up with Chase Ingram, who did a little bit of programming for them in the run-up to the competition, and they finished third, which was, I have to say, they're only 4 points off a second. And the guys who took first, this is Josh Mattis from the Ocean State CrossFit that's going to the games this year. I know one of the guys on Fender Bender, Samuel Sperlin. So like these are, those are pretty good guys, and they really have been working hard. So this was like very cool. They're not good swimmers. They actually took fifth in the swimming event. And yeah, pretty consistent performances. So that was really fun for me to see. I was kind of bummed I wasn't able to be there and watch them. But on the women's side of that, it's two women that you guys will know if you follow our coverage, Teresa Harvey and Heather Williams, who have competed at some of the other competitions. Both Teresa's done team before Fides of the Coast. Heather was over at Fides of South Carolina earlier this summer. They teamed up and they got the win over there. So that was really fun because to know them. And then I was trying to who won on the men's side. Zach Bunton. Yeah, didn't do as well as I had thought he would do at semifinals, but gets the win here with Taylor Beck. Just see, I haven't looked at this division yet. But man, I mean, if you were following along with any of the people who were at that competition out there for the Monster Games, it looked awesome. Carl Stemman, coach at CrossFit Yitzi. They just tell the fundraiser house to be coming to see you Sunday. Yes, she is. I was looking for Kyle actually. 15 minutes from Aberdeen. I was looking for Carl on Instagram. I used to keep in touch with him there, but he I don't think he's on Instagram anymore. But if he's that close, I should definitely go in. I mean, I don't have a way to get in touch with him. I would love to see him. I met Carl like I met Gavin and Ian at Strength and Depth the first year. I actually, he and Drake, who works at the games in a Rogue, they were the head judges, one for the team, one for the individuals. Ooh, I can find him via your followers. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't find him by his name, but I wanted to let him know I was coming up this way. I saw him at semifinals 2 years ago, not this past one, but the one in Berlin. Okay, yeah, thank you, Jan. Send it over. Trying to think if there's anything else going on. The main purpose of today's show was to introduce you guys to Kyle, give him a chance to talk about his competition. Like I said, he's really passionate about all the stuff he talked about. Put it on a great competition experience for the CrossFit community in Scotland, leaning into some of the game style stuff that he's studied over the years, and he's done a really good job with that. So I'm excited to experience it, but I have a full week of exploring to do in Scotland before that, and I think I'm going to pop off and Aberdeen. CrossFit Aberdeen is only about 15-20 minute walk from where I got a little hotel for the night. So I'm going to walk out, explore Aberdeen by foot a little bit. I'm not that comfortable driving on the left side of the road, so walking sounds nice, and it's always just you can kind of see and experience things that way. Get a little workout with Rob tonight, and tomorrow we have Linda Kieschman coming on the podcast. Been trying to get her for a while, so I think it's at 2:00 here. I have to check that. I might be way off on that. But Linda's she's an athlete that I know a little bit about. Wish I knew a little bit more, and that's one of the reasons why we're having her on. So she'll be on tomorrow. I don't know if we have anything else scheduled for the rest of the week or not, because I'll be driving around Scotland. But if you joined late and you want to learn about this competition, WOD on the Loch we're doing this weekend, pop on back, let Kyle tell you. I just basically let him tell you about it. And then, competitions Saturday and Sunday. So two days of competition, 6 events. The long one in the water, I have to see about what's practical when it comes to streaming that one, but all the other ones should be really fun to stream for you guys. So thanks for everyone tuning in. Hope you were able to understand Kyle good enough to get a grasp on what he was saying about his competition here. And we will see you guys tomorrow with Linda Kieschman. I think PC is going to be able to join, and I hope he will. It depends on his Army stuff. And otherwise, be friendly. We'll see you around.